Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Bead Maker and Coffee for Monday, July 8th. Good morning, Sydney.
Good morning. Long time no see.
Yeah, I know. How are you doing this morning? I am out front of the beautiful P&S Training Center here.
Nice, nice. I'm good. I'm good. It's early this morning for sure. Yeah.
Yes,
It was a
it was
long
an
week
early
last
one.
week and long week last week and got a lot done and now I got to get back in the groove. So,
I
yeah.
know, just a
Yeah, well, I'm
regular old
sure
week.
I'm sure we'll talk more about last week a little bit later.
Yeah,
But
but
I'm
that's a
good.
perfect point. We have some sneaky special guests behind the scenes here that I need to bring in because it
Yeah.
is kickoff week for 2024's Air Force One project.
Yes, it is. It is always a
So,
big week every year.
yep. So we thought, what a better occasion, and especially talking even about trainings this week. Obviously, Rennie Doyle
Mhm.
with his detailing success trainings, and Air Force One. Let's bring in Rennie Doyle and extra special guest, Mr. Bob Phillips. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hi guys, how
Good
Good
y'all?
morning,
morning.
guys.
You guys
Good
doing good?
morning. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting layout. Look at
Yeah,
that.
I
There you
like
go.
it.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning, Rennie. So it looks like you are in, well, I'm going to let you say, where are you at?
We're in Seattle, Washington, so we're up at Boeing Field, and the guys are just having breakfast. So we're it's going to come in and out of being loud. And as you mentioned, Tony, it's the first day of Air Force One, 2024, and Bob and I are talking, offline, and 21 years. So it's pretty exciting.
21 years.
21 years,
Very
yeah.
impressive.
Uh, it was a different world back then, and I think if you look at what detailing was, it's a hard task to pull off right now, but back then, honestly, I look back and I don't know how we did it. I mean, I really don't. The first 10 years was just such a challenge, and Bob came in and when we started really aligning, he really helped change this project. He saw something bigger, and the industry was starting to shift, and so it's pretty cool to be on here, and 21 years later, here we are.
How big is your crew this year?
We've really shrank the crew down because we want it to be people that are going to do something with it. So it's 32 people on the team. We had a couple people have to drop out. One of them pretty serious medical
Hmm.
situation, and the other
Yeah.
some personal issues going
Hmm.
on. But we always plan for that. So just over 30 people. And the amazing thing is on Wednesdays, media day and kind of industry day,
Hmm.
we've got Bob's going to be here. He'll get here tonight, right, Bob? You're in
Yep.
town tonight.
Flying up tonight.
So
Yeah.
we've got 60 people going to be here having
Wow.
lunch and dinner with us on Wednesday. So quite the support from the industry. So we're really excited about that.
Very cool. Very cool. And
Yeah.
how many planes is everybody working on?
So two primary three primary. So Air Force One's always the preservation of it. It's really a preservation project at this point for it
Hmm.
and the B-29. But several years ago, probably about 12 years ago, we started the renovation of the original serial number 1727. And so these are all really rare aircraft. Matter of fact, our insurance policy on this thing's crazy. Air Force, excuse me, Air Force One's valued at about 330 million this year. But the 727 is that
Hmm.
it's got a lot of historic first in it, and so
Hmm.
a lot of polished aluminum that's really been damaged. And so we
Hmm.
started the process of bringing that aluminum back about 10 years ago. So we're going to jump into it heavier this year. And we're hoping that about 4 or 5 years, it looks like Air Force One and the B-29 bomber does. So it's
Very cool.
pretty exciting, pretty exciting. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I think what's really
Very
cool
cool.
is I think this project is, I think, somewhat misunderstood in the industry. Sydney, you've been on the project.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not really about cleaning the planes. I mean,
Hmm.
it's really about a group of people coming together on a common project and a common goal, and
Hmm.
basically being a great example of what professional detailers, how they can come together, how they can work together, and just accomplish that goal at the end of the week. And I mean, it's not for everyone,
no,
because
Hmm.
it's not for the faint of heart.
no,
Sometimes the
Hmm.
conditions, they can be great, they can be miserable, but it's really about it. The best part about being involved in it is just watching everybody come together, and the teams have fun working on the planes. you know, just it's the camaraderie. You know, at the end of the day, the project is the ultimate goal, but you know, the ultimate success of the event is how the people come together for every year. And I asked you, Sydney, I asked, and Tony, I asked Rennie, how many detailers have worked on this project? And you said 160 over 21 years have worked on this project. So, you know, it's just a spectacular event in that it just brings people together, it brings the industry together. And a lot of people think that it's, you know, it's an ego trip to do Air Force One. It's not that. It's about the event. It's about the people. So it's pretty cool event.
Well, you know, looking at, you know, last year we learned something 20 years into it that I never knew. I'm a huge Ronald Reagan fan, and the museum didn't know this. And this blew me away. It's last year we met the pilot that flew President Reagan while he's president in this plane. And that piece of history had been missing. And so, the matter of fact, the Air Force has it documented, but nobody put it out there for anybody to know. And so, you know, the mystery of this plane keeps on going. And, you know, it's going to be around long after the youngest team members, you know, dead gone, I'd say. But it's going to be it's a very important piece of American and world history. And to have a piece of it's pretty amazing. No, it's not Air Force One, but it's Air Force One only if the president's on it. But the museum does have special permission, as do we, of calling it Air Force One because of the significant value of it. And that's a presidential order that Bush put into play. But, you know, Bob and the guys, there's a lot of myths. We've seen some stuff out there yesterday, and it is a circus getting up here, right? There's all these people coming in and juggling different things in their businesses, but people don't pay to be here. Matter of fact, Diane and I, the group last night, we figured out that Diane and I donate back about $75,000 to the members of this group to cover some flights, some hotels. We do allow people to get sponsored, so people do make their money back, but they don't pay to be here. There's just all kinds of you know, frivolous, silly, you know, rumors going around, and this is a labor of love that we all do, you know, and it's been a big part of all the way my kids. Darren, our youngest daughter, wasn't even born until the year after we started this, so she wouldn't know what it is to grow up without a dad, you know, detailing Air Force One. And so she spent the first 13 years of her summers in Seattle working on Air Force One and taking photos and being our team photographer and putting handprints on her dad's head with the metal, you know, the metal blacks residue. So it's just been our daughter Ryan, who's now a professional pilot. She did her senior year project when she was 17 here. And each one of our kids have been up. So it's got a lot of meaning to us, a lot of meaning.
I was thinking that with 21 years, there might even be a chance you have someone on the team, maybe not this year, but at some point that's younger than the program is. You know, we might get a 20-year-old.
Well, it's going to come pretty quick, probably.
Yeah. Will. And, you know, we got Doug Parfett, that's the project manager. This is his 15th year.
Wow.
You think about that for a second, because the first 4 or 5 times we did it, it was only my company. We didn't have a training center back then. You know, we weren't training, and so it was just our detailers. And you know, we've had Jorge out of our Sun Valley office, which he owns a shop in Sun Valley now. Jorge, you know, we were up there and we're both so tired. I told him we were doing all the finish work, and I said, "Hey, don't get near that edge." And you know, we did a lot of planes, and I looked over it, and sure enough, he's getting near the edge. And I watched him roll off of it and break his arm. You know, I mean, it's just and he got up and he goes, "I'm okay, it's okay." And he wanted to go to the doctor. And 2 days later, he's like, "Yeah, I better go to the doctor." And he came back to the shop with a cast on, and he never missed a day of detailing. You know, that's kind of I think that's the toughness of detailers. We've got people here that are injured that we're watching real closely, but they're not going to miss it. You know, they're just not going to miss it. So it's you know. Bob, we're going to be easy on that shoulder, though. We won't.
Yeah,
we won't do any overhead work. You know.
Look,
that's gosh.
I know, right?
Wow, that's amazing. But you know, it's such an honor to, you know, like I said, Bob Phillips will have his fingerprint on this forever, because he really allowed me to see that we could class it up, that we could get support in the industry. And honestly, before that time, we couldn't. It wasn't there because the industry it didn't have the means or the ways or the vision. And now, you know, Bob is when we went into, you know, Double Black, and it was a visionary program for both of us, right? But Bob's vision of projects, you know, because he comes from, oh, there's my lovely wife. Hold on, I got to wave at her. And so it just, his vision changed everything, and him sharing that vision with me, and then us sharing that with the team, and everybody bought in, thank God. And it's just, it's been special.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Well, thank you guys for allowing Rennie and I to be on.
Yeah.
Rennie's like, and thank you, Rennie, for jumping on, because I know day one you're probably like, really? I don't have
Yeah.
10 minutes.
No, man, this is what it's about, man.
Show, so
It's about sharing the story of these guys, pushing them forward and pushing the young people forward, the next generation. Who's going to take this over when I'm done? I got a bit, but it's going to happen. So thanks, guys. I sure appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And
care.
You guys have an awesome week. Send the team our best wishes.
I get in late tonight, Rennie, so I'll see you tomorrow morning on project.
Call me if you need me to pick you up, man. I'll come over and get you.
You got it. Thanks, man.
All right.
See ya.
Yeah, bud. Guys,
see you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right, Bob, you hanging out with us?
Bob, you staying or am I kicking you out?
Do I have to hit the leave button?
No, I can leave you.
No. I don't really know. No, I'm going to hit the leave button.
Okay.
I got to come to work with Tony. I got to change.
You got to come let Tony in. All
right.
right.
I did want to say one thing, because I know you always talk about products, right?
Yeah.
It's been a while since I pulled out Defender. And yesterday I did Defender on my wife's car. God, that product is insane. I'm so good. Like, when it does this thing, you're like, what just happened there? No. Anyway. Yeah. So that's my product. That's it.
Totally perfect. Love it.
See you guys.
See ya.
See ya, Bob.
Too funny. Tony, you're going to have to remind me of what my product is. Remember I said, this is my product next week, but now I don't remember what I said.
I can't remember either. I remember you saying that though, which is funny.
I'll think of it.
But yeah.
Well, very cool.
For Gabriel, sorry I didn't get your comments in with Bob about labels, but I'll be here today so I can bug him in person. It's been I've given him enough time, and he's taken off to go to Air Force One anyway, so I can just drop a little label bomb on his desk before he leaves. So.
Yeah, he probably saw the labels comment and probably
that's probably why he left.
That is literally his most unfavorite thing to talk about is labels.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was cool to have them join us. So that was awesome. So the project's super, super cool. If you guys ever have the opportunity to get up to Seattle and get to the museum, what a magical place. And the planes are just amazing. So they'll primarily be working outside this week in the outdoor hangar. Just super, super cool. A fun fact, I didn't want to interrupt Rennie, but a fun fact about that 727 that he was talking about that they're working on. That's a cool story. And I think the 727 was the plane that we had to pull out Absolute before Absolute was a thing.
Oh, interesting.
And so we had to secret go mix it up in big totes behind the supply closet. And the guys knew they were using something that was cleaning it, but they didn't know what it was. So that was a fun one. That was a cool story. So
yeah, very cool.
Anyway, yeah, awesome project. So I think there's, if you follow any of the detailers that are on the project, you'll be able to kind of follow them along. And then obviously, Rennie's social media channels, Detailing Success and the Detail Mafia will both have, I'm sure, lots of, inside clips and stuff from it. So that'll be fun. So fun project this week. Let's see. So what did we do last week?
Oh my gosh. What didn't we do?
I know, right?
It was a crazy week. So I was up there in Boise, Idaho.
Yep.
Not Boise with a Z.
Yep.
But
right.
Yeah. So you had several projects going on and several potential projects, only some of which we got to, unfortunately.
Right.
But it's the beginning of Sydney Shop 3.0.
Yeah.
And so,
thank goodness, right?
For those who are, for those who have been really following along and maybe even watch your garage tours on the Rag Company channel, you're in for your probably second major overhaul and upgrade kind of session.
Yeah.
So,
So
we did detail
overhaul.
and we did floor cleaning, Swiss Trax cleaning.
2 years of Swiss Trax dirt.
Yeah. We broke out the snow shovels for that.
Yep.
to clean underneath the floor. There was a brief moment while we were doing that I was like, maybe Swiss tracks are not the best option. But I think it's still so worth it because you can wash in the garage.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because if I just had like epoxy or something, it would be, I mean, I'd be out there
you'd
cleaning
be slipping and sliding it.
Yeah.
It'd be a hazard to walk on.
Right. I think what I learned was that it seemed so hard, but it only took us 2 hours flat, right?
Yeah.
From like, first pulling those things out to snow shoveling 7 gallons of dirt and then rinse. And that's what took the longest, was rinsing all the tiles. That I think, knowing that it's like a 2-hour project for 2 people, I obviously just need to do it more often. And then it wouldn't be as bad. But I think I always get crippled by it just seeming like such a large task that I hadn't done it in 2 years. And that's like 2 years of literal winter. Not good. It was not good. So I won't do that again. I'll do it more often. But then we packed up all my cabinets. Everything is now in cardboard boxes, and I still have to work this week. We took every single thing off the walls, which was nuts.
Even the stuff that was going back up.
Yeah, lots of damage to the walls. So we ended up having to repaint the walls, which was great. So had some supplies to start the garage renovation that were supposed to arrive, and they didn't. But in hindsight, I actually think it was great that they didn't, because we were able to just really do a deep clean, get rid of a lot of unused products, garbage. You know, I've been in that shop for 7 years, and it's just crazy. The stuff you accumulate and the leaves that accumulate and dog hair. And so it was nice to get it totally cleaned out, and you were a huge help. And then during that week, while we were doing all of that, we had a 55 Chevy pickup that was black, that had the most paint sheet metal surface that I've ever worked on.
2.5 cars worth of,
it was more than
square
a Sprinter
footage.
van. Yeah, it was more than a Sprinter van. It was nuts.
The whole bed's having like the recessed sides with the big fender flares.
Oh yeah, and the side steps, and oh my gosh, the huge fenders and the huge bubble roof. It was nuts. So that took us 2 days, and it was literally like Tony did the back half, I did the front half, and it was like we each did a whole car. Like it was crazy. But that turned out phenomenal. And then we had a filming day in there, remember?
Oh yeah, there was that.
We had a whole day of filming with the rag company, so that was fun. And that was hilarious because we had a plumber join us, who was in the video the whole time, and they were cutting ceiling out of my garage for some reason. So that was a plot twist in that day. And then
I caught him several times, like just looking over Jimmy's shoulder, watching on the camera setup that Jimmy has.
Funny.
It was
so funny. Yeah. And then we had a Ford Raptor R on Friday.
Raptor. Yes.
Yeah.
Which
Raptor
was
R, one of the new ones. Yeah.
Which was huge and beautiful, but still much less surface to work on than that 55. Even though it's, I got a foot lift on it and all that kind of stuff.
Not only was it much less surface area, but then it was really much less surface area because it was PPF to the whole front half that we didn't have to touch.
That's true. That did help.
So it was real easy. But being in the middle of tearing everything apart, it seemed very big. So we had a great week, got a lot done. We were very busy. I can't wait to show you guys my shop right now. It's just very sterile, which is kind of nice to just be that way for a little while. But I now have I have a no sticker rule now, which I'm super excited about the no sticker rule.
Yeah.
It's funny. Walls. So we had a great week, but I'm trying to think of what my product was. I remember saying, this is my product of the week.
I remember that too, but that's as far as that memory goes.
Yeah. What was your product of the week?
I mean, well, gosh, what did I use in your shop? Because I was there the whole time.
Can I say what it is?
Oh, sure.
I think it was that UCP on that Tahoe hood that you did.
Oh yeah, sure.
That made a huge difference. Yeah, that made a huge difference.
For the filming day, I'm like, what's a value add that we can film, not only for the video, but also for the customer? Like, what's a value add for both? And, you know, I was mostly standing around while you were working and doing, you know, the actual filming bits. And so I asked you like, hey, can I polish this hood? And I threw UCP on an Oreo pad, the black and white, like Euro fiber pad from Buff and Shine. And it came out great. I mean, it was, like, let's be honest, the hood before I polished it was probably 40% or 30%. I mean, it was rough, a lot of car wash scratches.
Pretty hammered,
And it was 60% when I was done. But it looked so much better in comparison. And I purposely did a nice 50-50 right down the middle of the hood, so Jimmy could film some of that. And it was so much better. And it honestly took me, all told, all the polishing, maybe 5 minutes. It's not like I was sitting there doing 1 foot square sections with 6 passes each. It was like 3 passes, big areas, not really breaking the rules with a product like that, but kind of breaking the rules a little. Just massaging it a little bit. And it looked great at the end. And you said the owner was happy. I missed the owner picking it up.
No, he was super happy. And of course he was like, oh, it looks great. You know, I mean, for him, he thought it looked perfect. So yeah,
I think the consumers, you get a 20% difference out of them, right? If it's 60, they think it's 80 and so on. And so that's always nice. They're not detailers usually.
So he loved it. So that was awesome. So yeah, we had a really good week, but it was very, very busy. For my product, I'm going to say that I used a lot of Clean Maker last week. Can I say that as my product?
Yeah.
Shout out to Jamie.
I used them as well.
I used a lot of Clean Maker last week. You know, we used it on the inside of that 55 on the dash. I just used it on a lot of door jams, a lot of.
Oh, remember we watched a Firebird too, and I Clean Makered that Firebird.
Yes, as the drying aid. Yes, I forgot about the Firebird. A lot happened. It was a crazy week. Oof.
So much.
I think I blocked out the Firebird just because it was pulling out the situation. That was a little scary.
The traumatic event that followed.
Yeah. But anyway, it was a great week. We had an awesome week. So this week we wanted to kind of kick off the summer. I mean, I know it's July, but you know, kick off the next couple months. Everybody's kind of ramping up their business. I know, you know, we have lots of new detailers that follow our show and stuff. And so we kind of wanted to, since Tony was doing training this week at P&S University in Hayward, we thought, what a better time than to chat about detail trainings. I know both Tony and I get emails, calls constantly about our training program, other training programs. You know, we see it online. People say, you know, how do I choose the right training program for me? You know, should I start out small? Should I go big or go home? And so we just kind of wanted to have a discussion on, you know, what's out there. Obviously, I want Tony to talk about what we offer at P&S, but also, you know, what should people look for? And, you know, what are some of the resources out there? And why should you get detail training? So we kind of wanted to have a chat about that. We are, of course, still answering questions. So still, you know, send in your questions. But, you know, just for a couple minutes, we just wanted to kind of talk about the importance of going through a training and how that can benefit detailers.
Yeah.
Yes, Bob did.
Well, I've thought about it quite a bit since we, you know, decided that this would be a topic we were going to talk about today. And I don't know, I've come up with a few things that I think, you know, you'll likely agree with, but please tell me if you don't for some reason. But, you know, I think probably the biggest thing with a detailing training of any kind, whether it be, you know, ours, Rupez's, you know, Joe Schmo on the side of the street, you know, or something, you know, a lot more robust, like what Rennie does with Detailing Success, is I think it's important to have at least some brand backing.
Yeah.
And why? And I mean, it's one thing when we are the manufacturer and we're providing the training, right? That I think is almost always going to be a good option. If it's a brand you enjoy and they offer training, there's supposedly, right, a really good chance that will be a decent training, right? And that you will learn how to use their products effectively. We focus a lot on in my class and the classes we do around the country, whether it's me or anyone, in process really over product.
Yeah.
We of course use our products, but the process is the most important part, because you can use the process with anything,
Right.
But I think having some brand backing is a big win for the students.
For sure. I agree with that, because generally, if a brand is going to put a trainer out there, they've made sure that they've vetted that person and vetted that person's, like you say, their processes and their beliefs and all of that. And so I do think that that's really important. That's not to say that the private ones are not okay, but definitely I would, if somebody was looking at various programs, I would start at a manufacturer. I think that regardless of which one it is, they're going to have a lot of good information. I also think that a lot of the manufacturers, as a whole, I think a lot of the manufacturers are going to be IDA members, or, IDA Founders Club members and things like that. And so a lot of that
That's true. That's a good point.
So a lot of it's going to stay consistent, and you're going to have the backing of the IDA. You're going to have somebody that not only has that manufacturer put forward, but you're also going to have somebody that the IDA has certified, and they may not be necessarily recognized trainer, but generally they're going to be certified detailer, skills validated. And so they've also been validated by the IDA that, that they know what they're doing and they know what they're talking about, and they're in a position to train people. So, I think that's probably another benefit of the manufacturers. They're most likely going to be also an IDA member. And then with that, generally, we always talk to people about the IDA. And then that's just another resource for education, training, certifications, things like that.
Right.
So what do you feel like, from a detailer's perspective, why is it important to do a training and have certifications?
Sorry, there's an airplane overhead. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not.
I can, yeah.
So, you and I discussed this just the other day, Monday, because you had come back from a training yourself that you attended. And there's something just like magical about observing either the manufacturer of the product or someone who's, like directly endorsed by them, because we mentioned private trainings too. And like, I think of Rennie's training, obviously, and that he obviously has the backing of many brands. You go in his shop and we obviously have a big logo on the wall. We have a big cabinet of product in his stuff, all the double black line. But he trains in his private training to many different brands, and it's part of what makes him and detailers like him and people like us authentic when it comes to using products, just like we answer questions about other products on here all the time. There's no one true brand that it makes a perfect everything. And so there's something about observing though the manufacturer or the manufacturer backed person and just knowing exactly how to do something, because there's a lot of crossover. Like I can teach you how to do ceramic coatings, and you can take those steps and apply them to most coatings and get good results. But you can still fall in love with some other brand's coating or some other brand's anything, and then use it and find success with it, and then find yourself in a training on that product that you've used 100 times. And realize, oh my gosh, it's even easier than I thought. Or if I do this one extra step, if I let it sit longer, if I use a different kind of towel to wipe the coating off, so there's so many little nuances like that unless you're spending every detail you do experimenting with a stopwatch and and 100 different kinds of towels and wasting a lot of time doing that research yourself, you're never going to find out what makes those products work a certain way until you go to a training of some kind. So I'm excited to even expand my training horizon, so to speak, and go to I've been invited. When Jason Rose was on, I was invited to their classes in Colorado, and now we have Robin in the comments, which is perfect timing there.
She had one question before that.
She did. What do you think draws people to attend trainings or other industry events? I hope the draw, is kind of like what I was just about to get into, the desire to always be learning and the understanding that you can't ever know it all. Think processes change, products change. And so there's just so many ways to expand what you know and do. and training is the easiest way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think another thing that probably draws people to attend is, the brand support. I know that we get, pretty high attendance in most of our trainings just because, definitely P&S is a brand that provides a lot of user support. And so that draws people in. I also think that, we talk about subjects that we know people are concerned about, or
Sure.
we kind of pay attention to the industry. We pay attention to what people are either struggling with or, asking a lot of questions about. We'll make sure that we focus on those things in training. We make sure that we talk about them. And so I think, and then as far as other industry events, I think, again, that probably comes back to support and, relationships and things like that. And so, I think that the more you can draw your base in or your fans of your product and provide support, I think it makes them want to attend trainings with your name on them, or, trainings or events where they know that they're going to get to meet the people from that team. I know a lot of times we think that it's fun to be known in the industry, and I don't really look at it that way. And I think, Tony, you've probably seen this too a lot at MTE and SEMA, is when people come and they want to see us, it's not like they want to see us for like some weird reason. It's always to say, thank you for teaching me this, or thank you for
Yep.
impacting my business in this way. And that is what I think is the coolest thing. Like, that's what people say when they come up to us. It's like, they tell you what you taught them, or maybe a little tip or trick that you said that made a huge impression on them.
Yep.
And so that, I think, is the coolest thing. And so I think just providing a lot of support, I know that's why people like to come to our trainings for sure. And I've heard it from you, Tony. You get tons of emails, people, thanking you for certain things that you taught them in training. And that's one other thing I wanted to mention about trainings is I think it's kind of cool because every training that I've been to, and even going back to when I went to Rennie's 5-day, what's cool about this is you are with other detailers for a day or more. And I feel like you just become friends with those people, right? You've had to work with them. So it just broadens your network of people to draw from, even if it's just for like emotional support, like you're having a rough day, you can't get something corrected or you can't get a stain out. You have people to call. And so, but so many trainings, I've been to so many now, and I still remember the people from each training. And so I think just networking is a big part of training as well. It's not just learning the tips and tricks, it's networking with other people in the industry.
Yep. It's funny, how much more special it makes. You don't really realize it until it's happened. How much more special it makes, like even a place like the Bead Maker Lounge group on Facebook, when I see students from the class join the group and then start posting things. And sometimes it's even just like a success story, like people post all kinds of stuff on there. So it can be, look at this car's before and after, look how much better I got it looking, whether it's using our product or not. And it's like, hey, I know that name, I know that guy, and it's so much more personal in that way. And so like slowly over time, the Bead Maker Lounge is more and more turning into a friends group that is people who all know each other and end up at the same events, end up at trainings together, and then are just obviously P&S product fans, which is huge, right? And they get to share all of that with all of the people that are just joining the group. I liked this comment from Josh.
Josh Pierce says, every training I learned something, either as a trainer or a student. I always bring something back to use in my business. Absolutely. I was going to say that as well. And Tony touched on it a little bit. Like, I went to a training, it's been a week and a half ago now in Salt Lake. And it's amazing. Even when you're there as a trainer, you pick up tips and tricks and, or somebody says something or, so, I mean, I came home with lots of knowledge from that, and knowledge, it could be product based, it could be detailer based, it could be what's happening in the industry, who's coming into the industry, and things like that. So I came home with lots of information from that training, even though I was a trainer. So very, very cool. Definitely. Every training's different, and it's great. Mark Avar, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Very, very great trainer here. All students get trained on P&S. That is awesome. Very cool.
Perfect.
Very, very cool.
I did want to give a couple extra people their shout out here. Yes, UCP is always the answer, Keith. Good morning.
Yep. Good morning, Keith. Thanks for joining us. Look who's here.
And then speaking of training, Mr. Allen, who's going to be
Alan.
going to be doing stuff like that for us over on the Europe side of things.
Yeah.
So
yep. New cool. ATG team member. Thanks for joining us, Alan.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. So real quick, let's wrap up the training thing real quick, and then let's get into questions.
Do you want me to try and log in with my phone and do a tour now that I have access? Or we want to save that for another time?
We can save that towards the end.
Okay.
But real quick, let's tell people how they can follow you. I know we say it every week, but let's go ahead and say it now. So tell me how to follow you, and then what you've got on tap the rest of the summer at PNSU.
Absolutely. So, me personally is at Tony the Detail Trainer on Instagram. And then you can obviously find at PS Detail Products on Instagram as well. And that's where we sometimes post stuff. So either of those, either myself or the main Facebook and Instagram pages will post about trainings. But then the best resource and where to go and actually book the trainings, which we have a comment here, which is very cool from the Details in Me. She has booked a class for November. And so you can go to psdetailproducts.com, and there's a training tab, and it has the 2 different classes that I offer. There's another airplane. Sorry. That's what I get for sitting outside this morning. So you can go to the website, and there are 2 classes available. And I've rearranged most of the rest of the year to try and make it flow a little bit better. And you and I were talking about this just last week. But there's one class that's like all in. It's a interior and exterior class. It doesn't do ceramic coatings, but we do a little paint correction, and then a full like interior detail and kind of everything in between. That's the all-in day. And then there is a paint correction ceramic coating class as well. That is, you actually get certified on our coatings, get a certificate, and you get the option to get added to inspirationcoating.com, the website where we have the map of installers. And you can get access to the warranty and all that kind of good stuff too for your customers. So that's a big, class, or a big attractant to that class as well. But both of those are on psdetailproducts.com, and you can go and book them out, and they're booked out for the rest of the year. So you can grab a spot and you can come join the Details in Me in November if you want. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm going to send you some, I forgot to, sorry for me looking at my phone. I forgot to send Tony the moments of internet uncertainty.
Oh, sure. Questions you had
so I have a couple of
ether.
those to send you. Yes, I have a couple of those to send. But let's see. All right. Yes, let's go back to this. So Sarah, what's the difference between Ego Maker and Rehab? I have Rehab. It works amazing. So mainly Ego Maker is a traditional compound, right? So it's older technology. Ego Maker was made probably about 8-9 years ago. So it is older technology. So it's going to be more of a traditional compound, meaning you're going to use it with like wools or more aggressive foams. It's most likely going to leave hazing. You're most likely going to need a second step. So Ego Maker, I've seen it do it before in one step, but it's not probably going to be like a one-step product. You're probably going to have to go back over with a second step.
Yeah.
But it's going to, it's going to focus more on deeper defects, but it's going to leave behind those kind of surface defects as it tries to get out the deeper ones. So Rehab, while it still has great correction abilities, it's new technology. It really comes down to the technology in it. So.
Yep. If you need to break out Ego Maker, it's because you have something real nasty in the paint you're trying to get out. That's, it maybe even past what Rehab can provide, but then you're usually following it up, like you said.
Yeah.
And she got decent answers from everybody in the comments too. So thanks everyone who helped out with that. But just wanted to address it here as well for the audio folks.
Nice. All right. So David says, so I was amazed by the shine Bead Maker has. I knew about the hydrophobic properties, but also the deep color. Does Defender give this shine? I'm going to apply it after ordering from Hans. He's a great help.
Definitely.
Tony, does it have the same shine? Yes, very much so. So But I will say it's kind of a different type of shine. So Bead Maker does still give that really deep glow, almost similar to like a Carnauba.
Yeah.
But Defender is going to be so slick, and really a lot of color pop. But if you know me, you know that I love using Bead Maker and Defender both together. So I do my wash clay seal with Bead Maker, and then I top it with Defender, and I don't know what happens. It's like something magical. I'm a big fan of it. And then you get
maybe
the
we
deep
can
glow from
drill Dave on that for our talks with Dave later.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, Defender, I mean, you're gonna be super happy with Defender. It does a really great job. I just wouldn't say that you don't get that like warm glow from
That's
Defender
true.
like you do.
A crisp look, like it's magnifying the colors of the paint, but not necessarily making it have that candy apple type look.
Yep. All right. These questions are on their way to you. So, and that's awesome that Hans is a huge help. Whoopsie.
I like this comment from Daryl. He just says that he's a weekend warrior, but he's been detailing for over 25 years. And what we're doing here on the podcast is a big training for me and learning about our products and how to use it and what to expect. And I just want to say, that's huge too. I mean, going back years now, I had a lot of my internet certification of you, if you will, of myself for detailing was from you guys and was from the Rag Company podcasts and their videos that they did. I don't think there's anything wrong with being YouTube certified to start out with.
For sure.
Let that be the gateway into getting you into other stuff and getting you into other trainings.
Yep. And I think that's great. I know we've been, doing Bead Maker and Coffee now for 4 years, just a little over 4 years. And, I think back to all of the episodes and, it is kind of an unconventional training. You get little tidbits as we're talking about different products and we talk a ton about processes on the show. And so, yes, it's very, every week, I still learn stuff from this show and I think it's great. Everybody comes together and you learn stuff from other people. It may not even be from us, right? You're going to learn from people in the comments. So, so I think that's awesome. Yeah. It's just an unconventional way of training, but it's still training, right?
Yep.
For sure. Super Auto, any updates on smaller bottles of rehab? I don't have an official update, but I did hear Bob say last week that the bottles are in. I think they just need to fill them. So if I heard right, I think the labels are in and the bottles are in. Maybe Tony, you can maybe get an update for us and post it on the Bead Maker Lounge today. But I feel like I heard everything's in. I just don't think it's bottled yet, but it should be soon. I know I saw special bottles that they sent up to Air Force One. So that makes me think the labels are in. But yes. Oh, the detailer life. Monterey. He wants us to talk about Monterey. So we do have another huge project coming up after Air Force One this week. We've got Monterey Car Week, right?
Yep.
The team was announced. Awesome. If you want to see the team, go check out our social media. There's no way that I could rattle everybody off right now. And so a couple posts again on our Instagram list the whole team, but Anthony Brown Jr. is on the team, which we're so excited about. And so he's excited about going to Monterey as well. So that kicks off August 12th, 13th, something in there.
That week, yeah. I'm fully expecting him to come with some extra special, Monterey team drip situation.
Oh man, I hope.
He's gonna go all out. He's gonna have a whole coordinated outfit that's gonna look amazing. So
I love it.
I'm excited for that.
That's
I'm excited for that.
Joe, that's cool. Good morning, you too. Thanks. Good morning. It is still morning.
I have Oh, sorry.
I was just going to remind you that I have that Ranger coming in today to coat. That's coming in today. So I'm hoping that I get a little nap while they drive home from Sun Valley. I'm hoping I get a little nap before they get here. All right. 3M Auto Spa says definitely worth every dime and you get your money back in products plus knowledge, confidence, and increase your bottom line dollar. Yeah.
Yeah. He's spoiling the best part of the training.
That's good. Everyone's on the inside circle here. It's good.
Yep.
It's good. Kyle Clark says, I'm teaching a Detailing 101 class for Prime Car Care Academy at 3D Rancho Cucamonga this Saturday in Southern California. If you're looking for an entry-level one-day class, contact 3D Rancho Cucamonga to reserve your spot. That's awesome. Yes. And I love these little classes that happen at the distributors. I mean,
yeah,
I think
the distributor classes
many different,
are so fun.
Yeah. And many different reasons. Obviously, Kyle's been detailing forever, great person to learn from. But when you take the classes at the distributors, you also get to know the distributor. You get to know their full lineup. You get to spend some time in their store, and then they become a resource for you too, right? Not only the trainer that's there, but the distributor becomes a resource. And it also, the distributors learn a ton of information at those trainings that they hold. And so, I always think those are my favorite. I mean, they're real. I love going to distributors. I love dealing with the local detailers and, kind of strengthening that, relationship between detailer and distributor. And, that's great. So if you're in the SoCal area, that's going to be a great one to take. I know we focus a lot on ceramics. Everybody loves ceramics. Everybody wants to get ceramic certified, but when there's an opportunity like that to do like a regular detailing class,
yeah,
those are great. It's a lost art. And even if you've been detailing 10 years, they're so helpful. There's always new processes that are coming out, new tips and tricks, new tools. Even if you've been detailing forever, still look into things like that. Those classes are awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
I was thinking of maybe crashing that class and just going and showing up and being a fly on the wall, being a student.
Yeah.
And just hanging out.
There you go. That'd be fun.
I don't know if I'll make it though. It's just this coming weekend. So
yeah,
been a lot.
Yep.
Well, hey, let's check out really quick then our moments of internet uncertainty that you sent over. And then I also have a hot off the press update from Mr. Keith Duplessis. So he is at Marine Detail Supply on August 3rd in Fort Myers, Florida.
Cool.
So he'll
very
be doing
cool.
a little training there.
Nice. Very
so
cool.
Got them all over the place. All right, so we've got a few questions here you sent over. So is P&S Express safe on all interior surfaces, including the infotainment screen? And is it safe to use with a steamer?
Yeah. Yes. So Express Interior is completely safe on most surfaces on the interior. I would try to keep it off the infotainment screen.
And I don't think that you'd even hurt it usually, as long as it's like a glossy surface.
Right.
I just think it might streak.
And that's what I was going to say too, is it also depends on the surface. The ones that I definitely avoid is like those older BMWs with like that scratchy ones.
Yeah.
Because they usually come in and they're already damaged, right? They're already have been sprayed with some type of cleaner in the past. So when it comes to infotainment or the gauge cluster, I definitely don't think it hurts anything to have it on your wet rag and wipe across it. I just don't spray it on those surfaces. Just because historically, interior cleaners can streak certain surfaces. I've never had a problem with Express and I've never damaged anything with Express, but I just think those areas you take special care. So I just would never spray it directly on those surfaces. Absolutely. If they're glass, you're probably not going to have any trouble at all. But just be wary on those older surfaces, especially like there was some Jeeps that had real sensitive infotainment screens a few years back. And then, like I say, any of the BMWs are, be careful about any of those. Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. But yeah, it can pretty much touch any surface, but I just feel like, always take care. I always use it 1-to-1. That way I think that's just an insurance that you're not going to damage anything. And then of course I use it with steam every single day. That was the second part of that question was, can you use it with a steamer? Now you don't put it in your steamer, right? You don't put it in your steamer, but, I scrub everything, pre-scrub everything, and then use my steamer. So for sure to kind of rinse it.
We had a fun one here. It's always a fun question. He said he's heard that black GM paint can be a nightmare. Do we know? He says he knows every paint is different, but have we found something that generally works good for paint correction on? I'm guessing on the black GM products.
No. I mean, if we're asking the question, like, what actually corrects it? No. What I've had, moderate success with is generally going to be a more aggressive, like a maroon pad or the Oreo pad. You used the Oreo on that black GM the other day.
Yep.
You're going to get a good amount of correction out of that, but to 100% correct black GM, I don't think that there's any amount of money that could get you to that point where it's safe to try to do that. So I think obviously rehab is great. I've been through everything under the sun on black GM paint, and rehab is the most solid. I can get the most correction out of it. And it's just, it's a nightmare. I think the biggest thing that I've learned from black GM in the last 10 years is just quote it really high and set the bar very low.
Set the bar low. That's
fine. I mean, honestly,
set their expectations.
The detailers and the customers bar needs to be very low. And then if you get 50% correction, like a win is a win, right? So just set it really low. Yeah.
I wanted to say too, as soon as this plane's done flying over, the last time I had really finicky black GM paint, I needed to find something that was extremely, extremely, extremely soft. And I went through everything in my cabinet, and the softest, I mean, like I have some polishes that like, I don't think there's any abrasive in them. It's like lotion. And it's like when they make LaCroix, how there's a field of peaches nearby and the wind blows and then they bottle it and they're like, it's peach flavored LaCroix. That's how soft I have some polishes, and they still were hazing. But it was just about this, and this is where it really stinks when students come in and are like, okay, what are the top 2 products I should buy? And it's like, I went through maybe 4 or 5 ultra finishing polishes that I happened to have in my cabinet before I found one that worked really well and left a satisfying gloss. Right. So having more products, buy more stuff, buy more stuff, go out there and buy more stuff. Buy the small bottles, right? Because you never know. And then invest in the larger bottles later when things, earn their place in your cabinet. But the big thing is just that's when you want to have a few more things in your arsenal. I think on that particular car, I ended up using a Menzerna finishing polish that just happened to be the right thing for that paint that day.
Right.
And like we recently used on a car, the 3D finishing polish that happened to be the right thing on a car that day. And those 2 products might be interchangeable 8 out of 10 times, right? But there's always going to be that one car where one just works better than the other. And that's kind of the unfortunate part about real paint correction is you need a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So, I know we're all huge fans of rehab, but I think, on that 55 Chevy, and we don't even know what paint system it was. The truck had been repainted about 10 years ago, but you're always going to run into that one quirky deal, And so this black Chevy truck that we were working on, it was not Chevy paint. It was aftermarket paint, but it was so finicky. And I would describe it as dry, but in a very weird way, not dry from neglect or anything, but whatever they used on it. And so we worked with rehab, and it kind of came down to a situation where we could have made rehab work. So this was the first car that I had where rehab just was maybe not the choice since rehab's come out. So we could have made rehab work if we would have done like rehab with a blue pad and then with a black pad. Right. So it would have been a 2-step, but then we kept testing and we were like, we really didn't want to do a full 2-step. And so we tried something with a little bit of moisture and oil in it. Right. So something that's going to be similar to like the 3D Menzerna. And so then we switched to that, and that ended up being the 1-step because we didn't have to go back over with a 2-step. So in that case, we were like, we're better off doing, because we couldn't measure the paint. It was not measuring. We were getting 0 in the front because it was fiberglass or aluminum panels, whatever. And then the whole back half was coming up 78, 83. Right?
Totally useless numbers, unfortunately.
So we had no idea what we were dealing with. So we had to look at it objectively and say, how do we do a really good correction without opening
being
ourselves
irresponsible.
to, yeah. And so we just chose a different product. As much as we wanted to use rehab, in that case, we had to be responsible and go, we might have to choose something different this time. And so, whatever the oily properties that are in 3D, it worked phenomenally for us.
Yeah.
And it turned out amazing. So it's always good to have different options for sure.
All right. Well, it looks like we've got one more question from the internet here, and then we've got a bunch of comments that have been rolling in.
Okay,
so I want to fly through them.
Yeah.
So this one says, can P&S Defender be used in place of bead maker when doing wash, clay, and seal? And this is perfect because it jumps right into our other question.
No, definitely not. So Defender does not have the same lubrication properties that bead maker does. And it does have SiO2 in it. So a couple things. It doesn't have the lubrication, so you're not going to want to be using it for that. But then also, it has SiO2 in it. So you don't want to be putting that SiO2 into your clay
mitts.
Now,
and towels
bead maker has a little, like you said, a little blowing from the peach. It has a little SiO2 in it.
There's a waft.
But yeah, there's like some layer. Yeah. And so bead maker is a much better clay lube. And like I said, when you're doing the wash, clay, seal, and then you top it with Defender, which is what I do every single appointment, the benefits that you get of those two products locking together and the immediate glow, like I love that. And so I still think it's totally appropriate to do your wash, clay, seal with bead maker and then just top it with Defender. I love that. But yeah, don't use Defender as your clay lube. It doesn't have the lubrication properties. I did it once on my car just to test it.
When you're actually doing it. Yeah, you can actually feel the difference.
Yeah, and I did it once on my car during testing purposes, and I'm not joking. I scratched the ever living daylights out of my car.
If you got a white car that's already all beat up, go for it.
Yeah, it's just, you're not going to get the same experience. And Defender, the technology of it, in all honesty, is meant to be used on a dry car. So Defender doesn't really play well. I know a lot of people use it as drying aids. It really doesn't play with that technology well. It likes to go on a dry surface and kind of flash off. And so that's the other thing, is if you did use it on a wet surface as a clay lube or as a wet surface, we really can't guarantee how much protection you're leaving behind, because it's not cross-linking with the paint in the way that the product was designed. So that's the other thing, is you don't know about the protection level, that if we're going to use Defender, we want to get the protection out of it. So put it on a dry surface, but it's absolutely okay to use over bead maker.
Right. Sure. And so that is obviously the perfect segue into this question, where he's like, if Defender's the more lasting protection, wouldn't you apply that to the paint first? And like traditionally, yes. Right?
Yeah.
Like traditionally, that's what we've all said for years, is you don't go putting a wax on the paint and then putting a Defender on top, right? The Defender may not stick. The wax is only going to last weeks or months instead of months, months and months.
Absolutely.
But there is definitely some sort of magic cross-linking, bonding, voodoo that happens with bead maker and Defender. And they're not the only products I've seen in the industry mentioned where something like that kind of happens. And so, we really should try and get Dave to maybe unpack for us what could be happening, on a microscopic level.
He's
tried
to explain it to me. There's no way that I could repeat it in his words. So definitely a good question for when he comes on. But because we know the technology of Defender and how it works with coatings too, is when you put it on within a certain time frame, it does a thing that we call soak, right? And so it soaks into or through, right? And so that's what happens on bead maker too. So I'm always putting it on within, I don't know, 2 hours after I've done, an hour or 2 hours after I've done bead maker. And so it like soaks into the bead maker and almost like locks together with it. And so really it kind of bolsters bead maker. It locks together with it. And then you get that true protection. And I've been doing this process for well over a year now. And when these cars come in, I'm not joking. Like they still bead fantastic. They still look fantastic. They're super easy to clean. The contamination's minimal. Definitely, where I was doing bead maker clay for, a solid 4 years before I got Defender and added that in. Even though they were still coming back good, now they are coming back great, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And so I know the process is working. I can't on a microscopic level explain it other than I know how it goes together. It soaks through the bead maker. And then as the two cure together, you've just got like a solid locked, and then you get the benefits of the warm glow from bead maker and the crazy slickness and, shine and feeling from Defender. And, bead maker, traditionally, we always say, you're going to put it on, it's going to look great, but in a couple hours, you're going to get that glow pop, right? I almost feel like the Defender makes it happen right away. And I'm always for immediate gratification with my customers because I work in a shop in my home. I'm not holding the car for multiple hours after the detail's done. So I need that immediate reaction. And so I'm always like in coatings, in detail sprays, I'm looking for that immediate. That's why I like Clean Maker, right? Because it gives you that immediate feedback. That's what the customer picks up on. So the two together, I'm not having to wait hours for bead maker to pop in its glow, right? The Defender kind of forces its hand in that. So awesome process. Fast Eddie here. I've got one for you guys. Fast Eddie's has a red 1949 pickup coming in, Ford, heavily oxidized, dual single stage paint. Eckert, any recommendations for pads and compounds on this one? If it's restored well, can single stage be coated? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Single stage can be coated. My recommendations on pads is get a lot of them.
Yep. Yeah. So you're going to be like anything, you're going to be forced to do test spots. There's a good chance that with oxidation, you're probably going to end up on the more medium to more high aggressive end of the pad spectrum. Rehab's obviously going to be a great choice. It works fantastic on single stage. But like Sydney said, your pads, they're not necessarily going to be, I guess they probably will be more dirty than a clear coated car. You just don't see it on a clear coated car when the clear coat comes off in the pad, but you obviously see it with a single stage. And so you'll be cleaning them more, switching them out more, and be prepared to have them stained red. Because the red will stay in the pads forever. So
it
won't ruin them
in the pads forever.
But,
but it is going to stain them forever. The heavily oxidized is the part that actually raises red flags for me. Why you're going to want extra pads is because
removing the oxidation.
You're really going to need to clean those pads. So I would not suggest. You're going to be using at least a pad or two per panel. That's not to say that you can't wash them in between, but I think you're really going to want to spray them with rags to riches, wash them in a washing machine. Probably using a pad washer may not get all of that oxidation off, and so it's one thing dealing with clear coat, but when you add oxidation into your pads, you're going to need more pads and be cleaning them properly, because you're not going to want to be trying to polish with oxidation clogging up your pads. So you're going to need a lot of pads. And so mainly the biggest thing here is just price it right. Price it right where you've got some of your equipment needs and abuse factored in. But I think the result is going to be amazing, but just set yourself up for success with your supplies ahead of time though. Like I'm thinking you're probably going to want like 15 pads for this vehicle. And what I would do is I would get through like 6 of them, spray them down with rags to riches, go stick them in the washer while you're keep correcting so that those ones get done so that you have more fresh pads. Cause you're going to need,
you're going to need them. Yep. So the new rehab bottle is 8 ounce.
Yeah, it'll be 8 ounce. We don't deal in milliliters. So yes, it'll be 8 ounces, which I think is pretty close. It's pretty close to the 500. I know it's a little bit different, but yes, it'll be 8 ounces. And then it'll be in gallons as well. We'll have gallons.
Oh, look at that.
Ethan says, would you ever do Crystal Wash, then Iron Buster on wheels? Would having everything broken loose by Crystal Wash help the Iron Buster be more effective? Yes. And actually, this was another question that came in, a similar question that came in through the interwebs that I did not share, but so great question. So absolutely. And I've had people say, should I use Iron Buster first and then Crystal Wash? No. You want to use Crystal Wash first because that's going to get rid of all the other contaminants, leaving behind the iron exposed. So then Iron Buster will be much more effective. So
Wow.
you are absolutely correct in that. And I've had to do that before. So I always start with Crystal Wash because it's the less smelly and the less aggressive on the surface. And then I have definitely had like BMWs or Audis where, you know, the Crystal Wash gets them 90% clean. And then I have to go hit a couple spots with Iron Buster just to, you know, kind of get rid of the rest of that stuff. Absolutely okay to do. Yep. Absolutely.
It's a good 1-2 punch.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. What about this combo? Rehab, 1 step, Defender, then Bead Maker, then interior with Swift.
Personally, I know this is what we're supposed to do, is put the strongest on the bottom. But here's the thing, the hydrophobics and the slickness of Defender, you would just be covering it up by Bead Maker. So honestly, in this case, if you want to just use Defender and that's what you want to make sure is what's on your surface, I wouldn't put anything over Defender.
Just leave
so I would skip the Bead Maker. Yeah, if you're not using the Bead Maker first. So if you're not claying, I would just go straight to Defender. The only reason I'm using Bead Maker is because I'm using it during my clay process, right? I'm using it as my clay lube. Now, I could absolutely use paint gloss as my clay lube, but I like the glow from Bead Maker. So I'm using Bead Maker as my clay lube. If you're not claying because you've obviously probably clayed before your rehab, just go straight to Defender. You don't need both at that point. And I would not put Bead Maker over Defender because it is a positive charge product. So then you're going to kind of fight with that, waiting for it to cure. Defender is drivable within 30 minutes, whereas Bead Makers, you really shouldn't drive within a couple hours. So in this case, skip the Bead Maker and then interior Swift. Perfect.
All right. We got a lightning round.
Oh yeah, it's 8:40. Look at that. For me.
So Ramiro says, continued training is very important to keep up with new techniques, products, and tools available that could help be more efficient and faster, along with keeping up with new vehicle materials.
Yeah.
That's a great
that's
example.
A really good point.
Mm-hmm. I know that, you know, like I was really excited when I went to Rennie's training originally, because you walk in there and he has 500 different polishers on the wall. I mean, that's a slight exaggeration, but it feels like that many. And we've got, you know, 3 to 4 different actual kinds of polishers, different brands, different products. So it's, you know, when students come and they're like, well, I was thinking of buying an XYZ polisher. And I'm like, well, then you get to try it today. Make sure it's the one you want, and try the other ones we have too, to make sure you don't like them better. So that's a huge benefit to a training that you just can't get, you know.
Yep.
You can't get that on YouTube.
Yep. All right. Lots of interior questions coming up. Okay. What are your thoughts on using Crystal Wash on a hot car? The goal is for it to dry and crystallize, but is there an issue with it drying too quickly? I'm a mobile detailer in Texas and it's hot here. So, you know, here's the thing. That is tough. But I will say, if you guys have seen my Crystal Wash video, for instance, I believe we filmed that last July here in Boise. So it was about a year ago. I used Carolyn Hennon's car that had been parked outside in the sun the entire day. And it's a huge Tahoe, dark paint. So in that video, I used it on a very hot car in the direct sun, and we left it on way longer than we should have because we were filming, and that always delays everything. So I didn't notice any issue. However, that was new paint, you know, so not old, dry, cracked paint. That was new paint. So I think that using Crystal Wash on a hot car is fine, but here's what I would do. I would do panel by panel. I just would not leave it very long. So spray it on, let it crystallize. If it crystallizes within like a minute, then just start washing. So I just wouldn't spray the whole car, and I wouldn't leave it for a long time. Also, judge the condition of the car. If it's an old car, take a little bit extra care. If it's brand new, you're probably fine. Now, the thing about Crystal Wash on a hot car, don't spray it on the glass.
Yep, I was just going to say, I think the material has maybe even more to do with it when it's hot than it's really the Crystal Wash issue. I think glass and even plastics, if they're hot, they are totally different with how absorbent they seem to be. You know, how impervious they are to external factors. I think the paint, you're going to be fine every time, unless it's literally black paint in 140-degree weather and it's vaporizing it or something. That might be a problem. But I think the paint, you're going to be safe, but the glass and the plastic is what I would be worried about if they were real hot. So
Yep.
This is kind of a fun one. So he's a mobile detailer in Arizona. He works out of a Tesla Model 3. He's trying to be as lean as possible. He tries to keep it to 8 bottles at most, which might be hard for us to keep track. But what do we recommend that does multiple things? So I do at least have some multiple things answers.
Okay. Well, and I'm just going to add real quick. Last week we had to pare down. I did a new bottle rack, and we had to pare down to our 20 most used bottles, and that was difficult. So this is going to be a hard one for me. So you answer this, Tony, because I couldn't even do 20. So you go.
So I would, I'm not going to exactly get you your perfect 8 set up because it would take me a while to think about that. But right off the top of my head, obviously Brake Buster. Brake Buster does wheels, it does tires, it can do rubber floor mats, it can do engine base. Yeah. Right. So right there, you've got a bunch of stuff. And in a real pinch, you could use it as some sort of nasty car decon too. If you wanted to pre-spray the lowers with it, if you had something that was absolutely roasted before you pressure washed it, maybe. I think I would have to have paint gloss, even though it's not the most versatile thing. Like I can't list 10 things it does. I can list clay. It's a clay lubricant. It's obviously good if we're doing interiors, which is where I use it the most. And you can still use it as a final touch product to wipe up fingerprints or drips before you deliver the car back. I mean, so I feel like that's huge. I would skip the little more targeted things. Like this is where undressed I wouldn't bring if I had to bring only 8 bottles, because Brake Buster can do it. It just might take a few more applications if you had really, really nasty tires, let's say. What else? I mean, Absolute.
I would do Absolute.
Yeah,
I would do Absolute, and I would maybe skip a window cleaner, because you can use Absolute as a window cleaner. So I think that, if you learn
how to do your screens on the interior and your gauge clusters, mirrors.
Yeah. So I would do Absolute, because you'd obviously use it for all the things you would to Absolute, steamer, clay lube, window
and
cleaner.
Then it would probably be like
the
Express and the carpet trio. There you go. That's like 6 bottles right there. We just got to 2 bottles back.
Yeah, the carpet trio is hard because it's 3 of them, right? The other one that I would do would be Swift. I would do Express and Swift. And the reason I would do that is because I do think that there's a lot of cars that still need some kind of protectant to finish them off. The reason I would choose Swift is because Swift is versatile, meaning you can clean and protect, but you can also, and we did this on the Tahoe last week, we went through and we did our normal detail with Express, scrubbed everything down, steamed it, but then we finished everything with Swift because I didn't want it to have any shine. It was a realtor's car.
Yeah, it was black, carpet on black, plastic on black seats.
And there was just so much of it. And so we actually finished it with Swift, using Swift as the protectant. So I like the versatility there. Swift is also going to be great on the floor mats, rubber floor mats, any of your exterior plastic. So I think you're going to get a lot out of that. Did we mention a tire dressing like Dynamic? I think Dynamic would be a good one to have too.
Sure. If you're going to go 2 dressings, probably Swift and Dynamic. Because then if there is the car that you want the interior, if the customer's like, oh, I like it shiny, I love using Armor All, then you can go, okay, well, I have something a lot better than that, and you can use Dynamic.
Right. And then I think, on the carpet trio, that's a hard one, because I definitely don't use that on every car, for sure. So could that be one that you leave at home, and in your pre-screening of your vehicle, is there a question you can ask to see if you're going to be doing major spot removal? Yeah. If it's just, if it has leather seats and black carpet, you probably don't need the carpet trio, right? I would just because if there are certain stains that you can get out with Express. So if I'm just like spot cleaning, usually I'm doing that at the same time as I'm scrubbing all my plastics. I squirt some Express on there, agitate it with a brush, and I'm hitting it with my steamer. So I don't grab out my carpet trio unless I'm truly like cleaning carpets. Now, I know that's a little bit hard to know, but maybe you can ask some pre-questions to know if you have to take those 3 bottles with you, because that is 3 bottles.
That's a good point. Yeah, because if you're not doing an interior at all that day, don't bring those.
Yeah. Yep.
I like this. Soft paint needs the last polish. I will say, Hans, on that black GM paint, I'm pretty sure I tried that and it still wasn't soft enough. I might not have. I have it. It might not have been one I grabbed, but I feel like I tried everything. Daryl's here. He says he works for GM and his personal opinion is the paint is garbage.
Yep. So I agree with you guys and found to use a mild finishing compound. Yep. Oh, black GM paint. The price automatically doubles. All right. If you're finishing with a DA on soft paint, often a firmer foam pad will finish better than a soft pad. Yeah. So I recently did a Chevy Colorado that was black that was really hammered. And I ended up with a maroon pad and rehab,
which is pretty aggressive.
Yeah. And that was where I ended up for sure.
Yep. But if it worked, it worked. Always, what did we say earlier? A win is a win.
Yep. A win is a win. Yep.
All right, let's see. We got a few more here. Greetings from Panama.
Oh, listen to the birds.
Dreammaker can be used as a drying aid.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
It's not my favorite. Yeah, it's not my favorite drying aid, but it absolutely can be used as one. I think when
it doesn't have much like slickness to it, I've found. Yeah. But if you're doing it on top of Absolute, I've found that it seems to work fine.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit more care making sure that you wipe all the streaks in.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, to Fresh Detail Studio. Ethan, I've used EnviroClean. Yeah, totally. I've used EnviroClean, and those are not the days that I like. I always say when Kyle and I used to chat in the mornings, we'd say, is it an EnviroClean day or an Express Interior day? And I did not like those EnviroClean days. But yes, absolutely. When you get those gnarly Honda Odysseys with the gray leather interior, I just go straight to EnviroClean.
There you go.
Yep. Does Sydney ever use Absolute as a clay lube? Seems like she uses Bead Maker more. I do not use Absolute as a clay lube, and I'll explain why. It's a fantastic clay lube. But because of my bottle issue, I have like 30 bottles. And so I mainly do Bead Maker, right? And then when I'm doing like clay for prep for a coating, I'm usually using paint gloss just because I like it and I like to give it a purpose. So I'm either using paint gloss or bead maker. So if I'm just doing a wash clay seal, I'm bead maker. If I'm prepping with clay, I use paint gloss. If I'm using traditional clay, I use paint gloss. Absolute makes a great clay lube, but you have to mix it at 64-1 to use as a clay lube.
You want it to be stronger.
And I just don't want another bottle, right?
And I do it right out of the bucket, and I usually mix the bucket up stronger if I know I'm going to be polishing, as I'm not. I mean, this might sound bad, but I make sure no one's listening out here. But I'm not particularly worried about leaving a light clay mark on a totally roasted car.
So. Right, same. And I've done that too. The only time I really grab out of clay lube is if I have real contamination. But if I'm doing like the wash and like the courtesy clay to make sure like on a new vehicle or something like that, then same. I will mix it up a little bit, heavier dilution, maybe 128-1, and I wash the whole car, clay it real quick while it's wet. But if I'm doing like true decontamination with clay, I'm usually using paint gloss. But like I say, Absolute makes a great clay lube. The reason I do it is because I don't want another bottle of.
Yep. Then you have to keep track of a 64-1 bottle and a 256-1 bottle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's a great clay lube. In my system, I just use paint gloss.
Yep.
David, if I have Defender on, like you said, can I still use Bead Maker? Oh yeah, absolutely. I totally do that on my car. Yes. I just don't think you need to put it on right after, but absolutely moving forward, because, Defender, you don't want to put that on every time you wash your car. You really only need to do that like every 2-3 months max. If you want to do it that often, you really shouldn't have to, but then yes, you can use Bead Maker as much as you'd like as a drying aid. Totally. Would you use Breakbuster over Mudbuster? In certain circumstances.
I think if this was my like absolutely limited bottle thing, right? If I only had space for those 8 bottles, then I'm going to bring Breakbuster.
I'm going to choose Breakbuster. Same, because Breakbuster is much better at cleaning rubber and the wheels, but Breakbuster has a rust inhibitor in it. Well, I guess so does Mudbuster. Because it's in the off-road line, but Mudbuster is more of a true, like, all-purpose cleaner. It's going to fall more in an all-purpose cleaner, whereas
the organic material.
Breakbuster's kind of in its own class, and so they're two totally different products. I know a lot of people, I read it all over the place. People say they're the same. even close to the same. So it always cracks me up. They're not even close to the same. But I would, if I had to choose one or the other, I'm going to choose Breakbuster just because of the situations that it covers are higher.
Yep. Same. I got a text from Keith too. That's when we were saying the win is a win. He said, if it's stupid, but it works, then it's not stupid.
Right. Yep. What's the best way to mix Absolute with water to prevent the clumping? So Bree, the first thing is, or I don't know if it's Bri or Bree, but if you have new Absolute, there's really no clumping issue anymore. If you've got the old stuff, I think you need to rock the bottle. Don't shake it. Don't, it kind of freaks the polymers out.
Just rock the bottle.
Rock the bottle. And then the other thing, if you do have kind of clumpy Absolute, is try to use warm water. It definitely dissolves in warm water much better, more so than cold water. But here's the deal. If you put it in and it's clumpy, just swirl it around with your sponge or wash media, just swirl it around. It'll end up dispersing. And honestly, the clumps don't hurt anything. But if you have major clumping, your Absolute might be an older batch. I know I just had to throw away a half a gallon the other day because it was an older one. It was at the back of my cabinet and it had, it was pretty chunky monkey, but I also know that now it doesn't really.
We mix it differently now. Yeah.
Yeah. Dave puts it together differently. So we don't have the clumping issue anymore. So, but if you want to use up what you have, and that's the thing, it's still totally fine. Just try to use warm water and be gentle with it.
Yep. I put it in my bucket first, and then the hose, I just throw the hose on to fill it. And basically the action of the hose filling the bucket just sort of, it dilutes it on its own.
Yeah.
And then we've got one final one from David. He's asking, do we have any products to use on carbon, like carbon spoilers or car hoods, etc.?
I think any of them, right? Absolute, obviously to wash it
will work. Yeah. I mean, your two big differences are going to be, is the carbon cleared or not? Is it smooth to touch, right? And does it have like a resin or a gel coat or a clear coat on it? Or is it just bare carbon? But in either case, I would say you can just about use anything. I mean, Defender would work, Bead Maker will work. You can wash it with Absolute. I mean, yeah. If it was bare carbon that wasn't cleared, I would avoid spraying aggressive stuff on it when it was hot. Just like treat it like any other kind of plastic surface. Honestly, that was maybe more delicate because it could stain it. But that's it.
Yeah, pretty much it.
Cool. All right. Well, shoot. I mean, that basically brings us to the end of the comments.
Cool.
We got one more from Ethan.
Thanks, everybody.
Last minute addition here. Uses rinseless, mixes it stronger in the bucket. Spray of eye remover in the towel and the surface. With crystal wash, there's almost nothing left. There you go.
Cool. So what do we got coming up? So you've got training this week. You've got a training session in August. So if you guys are
end of August,
check that out. Yep. Rest of the year's on there, but normally we skip August, but Tony was a warrior and wanted to do a training in August this year. So we're going to do that. We do have Monterey coming up August 12th through the 16th. So you're going to start seeing more about that. And that's, P&S's big event every year. So we're super excited about that. And we'll be back in 2 weeks for another episode of Bead Maker and Coffee. You won't want to miss that one. I'm not going to give away who our guest is, but it's going to be pretty great. So it's going to be business oriented. Yeah, business oriented. So you'll definitely want to be here in 2 weeks. And yes, Anthony Brand Jr., we are still so excited about Monterey. Super excited. So thank you, everyone. This was great questions. Great to have Rainey and Bob join us at the beginning of the episode. Let us know if you need anything. Obviously, P&S Detail products on all of the platforms. Feel free to reach out. If you ask a question through DM, you're going to get to me, Tony, the detail trainer. My Instagram is SBG the detailer, and always feel free to reach out. Like that's what we're here for, is to help and help people
answer questions
be successful
all the time
in their businesses. Yeah. So well, you guys have a great week in San Francisco, Tony.
Thank you.
And we're going to hope that my cabinets show up, and you guys have an awesome